Hey everyone, hope you're well. Checking in on the US names. We got a whole bunch to look at. Reminder that we've got some major earnings approaching. GWPH is going to be approaching earnings early this week. We've got CGC, I think Thursday. We've got ACB pre-market on Monday. So that's going to have a major impact on how the entire sector does react. And it's also a clear setup to me now looking at a lot of these US names that some of them look very different than what the Canadian names are doing. And they have a lot more consolidation under their belt. So I'm very curious to see if the names that have been consolidating for even a couple weeks at this point to establish their weekly higher lows, which we're going to look at in some of these names, whereas Canadian MJ major players are just now starting that weekly consolidation. I'm wondering if the profit taking from the Canadian names is going to hop into these US names to try and get another leg to the upside. Have to continue to be watching the S&P 500 as always, but the bulls bought that dip on Friday and we're just looking for another daily higher low at this point. One thing I want to point out, which is obviously why we're so interested in the US sector, is this is a map, and shout out to Tony over at Group MST on Facebook. Definitely worth checking that group out, Marijuana Stock Traders. But this is showing the United States population in terms of Canada's population. So how many Canadians would fit where the population right now is for the US. So you can see it's only just a big chunk of California here. That shows how densely populated California is and how large that market is. Saw a note on Twitter that December sales in California were 600% more than all of Canada. Granted, those could be some inflated numbers, but even if they're double inflated numbers, it's still 3 times. So a much more addressable market in the US, which is why we're so excited for when we get some regulation changes along the lines of full-on legalization. So we're continuing to pay attention to the States Act. We're continuing to pay attention to the upcoming presidential election. It's a ways away, but we could have the same scenario as Canada where we have a platform that, or I should say a party where one of their platforms is national legalization. So if that individual were going to win, we would see the stocks run on that news. We would see the stocks run on any of the vote making it official, and we'd see stocks run on the first day of sales. It would be a pretty similar blueprint, in my opinion, to what Canada has already shown us. So in my opinion, I want to see that happen because that would be the easiest for me in terms of keeping track of it along the political path that it has to take and watching how the stocks, we would have a shining example of previous history to be watching. So looks like my GWPH chart here got erased, but we're going to look at GWPH, CURA, GGB, MRMD, GTII, IIPR, OH, KSHB, IAN, CVSI, MMEN, CWEB, TRUL, ACRG, and LHS. Not Bitcoin. So earnings coming up for GWPH. It has been holding on really well. We have some clear daily higher lows. We established a higher low down at 133. We just consolidated for a few days. Big green volume day on Friday. That's exactly what the bulls want to see to give some confidence heading into earnings. But it just formed another daily higher low down at 137.17. And we're looking up at resistance of 149.70. So we have to break that level for continuation. Right now it's a bit of a double top, but we also ran up there real quick, that hourly time frame getting a bit extended. Let's see if we get some healthy hourly consolidation and then continuation. As far as whether it's a bullish reaction or a bearish reaction, if it is a bullish reaction, the only resistance we're looking up at is really the all-time high. It would take a very bullish reaction to get up to those levels, talking 20%. So I don't anticipate that's going to happen. But if we get a bullish reaction, we can easily see the price up in the 160s. If we get a bearish reaction, weekly consolidation will very clearly be underway. We are certainly due for weekly consolidation after seeing 6 big green weeks in a row, potential bearish reversal hanging man candlestick. And we'll watch if we get a bearish reaction, where can we form that higher low? If bulls hold 120, not that big a deal. If we were to pull back under 120, that would start to be a lot more profit taking and pullback than the bulls wanted to see. CURA is a really good looking chart, and we covered this one recently and was talking about the potential of it hitting all-time highs in 2019. Going to have to speed that up a bit because right now there is a lack of resistance until that all-time high 15% away, 1149. So the weekly chart you can see already established a higher low. That makes bulls a lot more confident. If this were a straight move up, the bulls would be extended. We'd have to be cautious. Thered be a lack of support established, but this is where the bulls see a solid bounce. They take a little sideways breather. They establish a base of support, and then they see continuation on increasing bull volume. Daily time frames doing the same thing, just keeping up higher lows and higher highs. Healthy consolidation, bullish reversal candlestick, continuation on increasing bull volume. lack of resistance. Let's look for that hourly trend change telling us that the daily higher low had been established. Daily consolidation underway. We bounce to form just another lower high on the hourly. We pull back for a higher low, and then we get a bull break. As soon as we got over 919, that changed the hourly trend, and we then said, all right, our daily higher low is established, and the bulls following through as perfectly as they could hope. So on the consolidation here, if we do consolidate, because we're closing strong, but hourly higher low to maintain is 951. If we lose 951, we look for daily consolidation, and we'll see if the bulls can form a higher low compared to 875 to keep the daily uptrend intact. GGB. So here's another one of those names that I was talking about that's already consolidated significantly. And any of the Canadian names who have not lost the daily uptrend yet, this is what you want to see in terms of a lower high and lower low. Yes, you lost the uptrend, but you didn't see a ton of follow through. The bulls did buy that dip. And when you see that, a break and a trend change without a ton of follow through, you zoom out and look for a flag. So the weekly time frame is a potential bull flag. The higher low had not been established since all the way down here in the $2 and $3 range. So now we have a higher low up at 470, and the bulls are going to try and make their way back to the recent high of 640. Daily trend has to change for our weekly higher low to be established. So we look at the daily chart, we have our higher low here on this bounce of 540, and they have to see a break of $6 to change this daily trend and then have us looking back at the top. So just like we look for the hourly trend to change bullish to tell us the daily higher low has formed, it's the exact same thing when you zoom out. You need the daily trend to change to tell us the weekly higher low has formed. So tight range to be watching, $5.40 to $6, and we'll see if the bulls can shift that momentum and tell us weekly continuation is coming for these bulls. MRMD, pretty flat trading. The range I'd be watching is 379 support and 422 resistance. We've been trading within that range for the last 6 days, so that's the clear break that we'd be looking for. Weekly consolidation, not giving us an indication that it's done just yet because we haven't changed the daily trend here. It's just a sideways weak bounce attempt. If we break 379, 353 is next. And if the bulls do shift this momentum and can get over 420, we'll look for this weekly higher low to be established and for the bulls to try and make their way back up towards the recent resistance up at 533. GTII, another one. So this is the kind of consolidation after that kind of bull move, just fine and healthy. The weekly higher low trying to be established here. So there's the bounce. There's where we rejected. Here's the higher low of 1460. And now the bulls try for this continuation move. And the daily time frame, we hit 1460. We bounced. We broke some resistances. Here's our higher low. And we have to break 1699. We'll just call that 17. Have to break 17 in order to convincingly have the bulls say, yep, consolidation is done and we're going higher on the weekly. And that's, again, really good bull volume on Friday. Let's see if the bulls can build off of that on Monday. IIPR coming off of all-time highs. The last higher low was 58.01. Another higher low at $60. And we're heading up to the all-time high, 66.33. And at this point, we've already seen a 6% bounce in just 2 days. So some decent volatility here. Hourly trend change. Let's see how clear it was. Higher the bounce, higher low, trying to get up, and then this candlestick on Friday morning was the clear hourly shift in momentum, and they followed through for that day. OH, so here's one that's still, ideally the bulls wanted to hold 887. That was just one little brief day of consolidation. The next level I'm looking down at is 798. And the bulls turning momentum around. We had a daily inside bar break bullish with a close at the high of the day on Friday. Note how these candlesticks closed, and note how we saw the major Canadian MJ names closed. Cron closed at the low of the day with an all-out dump, and here you have a lot of these names that we're looking at with high of the day closes in the U.S. sector. OH stands out. IIPR had a strong close. GTII up at the high of the day. So again, these things need to stand out to us as we compare these sectors. And key resistance is 990. Bulls want to keep the hourly uptrend intact now that they've changed it on OH. So here's the hourly trend change. It was a tight range that did break bullish at the second half of the day Friday. And our last hourly higher low is 850. Again, a lot more volatility in these names. 3 hours, 4 hours, and we went from 850 up to 928. So that is an 8 to 9% move. But just be aware that we can pull back that hard too. We pulled back from 894 down to 850, so that was a solid 5% pullback. So just adjust your capital sizes to these faster movers. So KSHB ended up having a really nice break from this range that we were watching where we had multiple tops at 563. As soon as the bulls got over that, they got significant follow through up to 635. So a nice 10% bull break. Pulled back. Look at our support. Previous resistance acting perfectly as support. 561 hit that level, and now we're tightening up. So this is the bulls attempting to continue this daily move with multiple tight inside bars and no volume. So look for a volume spike on Monday and a break of this range. If we break $6, we're looking at 620 and then 635, trying for this continuation. The weekly chart on KSHB is a bit wonky comparative to most others. We saw the big bull move. We saw the big pullback on the reaction to the dilution, potential dilution, and now we're looking for a weekly lower high to be set, and probably going to see this weekly range tighten up into March or beyond. IAN, so watching the process that goes through here for getting shares for the conversion of MPX, my MPX EF, the US ticker, converted into the MPX Canadian ticker in my account, and now you can watch it go through the process in terms of changing its identification and things like that. Haven't gotten any free shares yet, and we'll certainly report back when the shares have converted to IAN. But tightening daily inside bars, volume dropping off, break is imminent on Monday. If we break 738, we look to 695. And if the bulls can break 759, they'll be in good position to see continuation. After 759 is 770, and then 792 after it. Weekly time frame, this is one of the ones that's a bit extended, and we have to be cautious. Potential volume climax, we'll have to see how the next week starts volume out. But again, this is a move of 7 green weeks in a row, and we have a little bit of fundamental reason for this last little push up, and the bulls able to hold their strength. Just be aware that this is certainly a name where we're going to anticipate weekly consolidation coming sooner rather than later. CVSI, the size of the pullback at this point, indicates that we're likely going to form a daily equilibrium when we change this momentum. We bounced off of 468 pretty solid, but it's a daily inside bar, so that tells me the hourly trend has not changed yet. We have our low. High of the bounce is 570. Bulls held support at the end of the day Friday with a higher low at 475. But if we just bounce Monday morning and can't break 507, we've got an hourly equilibrium and tightening daily inside bars to be watching. MedMen on the daily, so red flag a while ago with the size of the pullback already. We broke key support on Wednesday. Thursday, the bulls held it. Why didn't we follow through when we broke that support right away? And the reason is because we had already seen 7 red days in a row. So the bears are exhausted even though they broke that support, and we just see a short-term bounce to cool off oversold RSI levels. So again, my rule of thumb is I just don't enter shorts if timeframes like the hourly timeframe are oversold. And when that $4 level broke, the hourly RSI was just getting oversold. And that just prevents me from getting in. And then, again, seeing this little weak bounce, it didn't do a whole lot. It ended up being a 3% plus bounce, but just a lower high cooling off RSI levels. And I want to be entering on those little bounces as opposed to, into an overextended bear move. So at this point, we close at the low of the day Friday. 397 is support. And the next level after that, we're looking down at 387. And we have a new resistance established at 412. CWeb on the daily time frame. Have to be cautious of the head and shoulders pattern here with the size of the pullback that we've seen to this point. And we've got our low of 1875, our high of 2275, and here's holding support and bulls bouncing. But if we can't break that resistance, we're going to just form a daily lower high. The size of the pullback and the amount of bear volume and the weakening bull volume on this bounce tells me we are very likely to form a lower high here. So we're going to look at a lower high, potentially giving us a right shoulder. And if we were to roll over and break 1875 from there, we lose the daily uptrend. We zoom out to the weekly chart and we say, all right, weekly consolidation clearly underway at that point. And that looks very clear to me. We'll see if it plays out. We'll check back in later. TRUL, and obviously CWeb, you want to keep an eye on it because it is a blue sky breakout bull, and certainly want to be a part of that if we do see healthy weekly consolidation. TRUL, daily higher low established at 1454, heading up to test resistance of 1669, and a strong close on increasing bull volume. Yet another U.S. name, strong close on Friday. Let's see if it carries over to Monday. Hourly trend changed here to indicate the daily higher low was established. Now we have another higher low. Need to see 1630 and 1669 break on the weekly time frame. A bit extended. We did have 1 week of consolidation mixed in there. Key resistance is 1749. Very important level in the short term if the bulls do see continuation on the daily. ACRG, another name that has seen multiple weeks of consolidation. We're just trading sideways, so not extended in any way, but what I'm seeing is the top of the bounce, the low of consolidation, a rejection, and almost a double top, 22.99, 20, make that, it is 25.08 and 24.75. So a lower high. We closed at the low of the week, and now it's all about 20.57. Can the bulls hold that level and continue to see this weekly chart tighten up? So here's the bulls giving it everything they have to go after that resistance. Big volume, but profit taking and bears rejected it, and a solid pullback. And you can see the size of the pullback after that and the follow through the bears get is because that's literally the bulls using everything that they have in terms of buying power, and then nobody's left to buy after that day, so the bears have their way. LHS. So daily chart 114 was key resistance. We did get a bull break of that, and we're looking for another daily higher low at 103. Not a lot of follow through, so this is more looking like Canadian MJ with the disappointing follow through. We had the bounce day on Thursday, no follow through on Friday, and if we see a bear break of 103, that tells me red flag, and the weekly chart certainly not looking very strong at this point. Big upper wick, we did form a higher low, another big upper wick, and have to hold 88 cents to keep the weekly uptrend. But for the daily level, most important short term is 103. So that's where we stand in the sector as a whole. Earnings are going to dictate, probably for the major names a bit, ACB on Monday in the Canadian sector. And as far as the U.S. goes, very curious to see if we can get another solid green day into tomorrow or into Monday to continue to stand out compared to the Canadian names. And it's always going to fluctuate. You know, some Canadian names are going to be red, some are going to be green, and vice versa. But I keep an eye on that marijuana index site so I can just gauge, you know, what are the gains of the top 5 Canadian names versus the top five US names this morning, and you know, what are the weaker sectors, how much are they down, or I should say weaker countries. So have a good weekend, and we will check back in on Monday. You girls are prime time.